Okay. All right. So everybody can hear me, right? So couple of things. I'll share with you how you can look at interview preparation for any dental schools, and I'll try to cover couple of different schools. Like some schools have different pattern of doing interviews. I'll also discuss that, and if you have questions, you can ask me. If some of you are comfortable, we I all some when I do these kind of sessions, I also do role play. Like I can help you create answer, like randomly pick somebody. If I'll ask you like, tell me about yourself, your strength, your weakness, and I'll help you create an answer if you want to. That's totally up to you. Okay. So starting off from, I'm going to tell you about dental school interviews, starting from whether it's Colorado, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's UCLA, whether it was US. Well, USC had MMI, but most of the school, like even back when I was giving NYU, it wasn't Kira Talent Assessment. 90% of the interviews are taken by a human who already read your personal statement and your resume. So I'm just letting you know there's a term called open file interviews and closed file interviews. Open file interviews are when they have already read your resume, the faculty has read your resume, they have read your profile, and they already have a image about you, like they wrote, like they have questions about you, and they will talk to you. On the other hand, schools like USC have a closed file interview. Now, closed file interview is an interview in which they will ask you question, all right, but they don't know about you. So they haven't read about your resume. You're like a new person to them, and they will start discussing things with you. UIC does that. All right. One other thing I'll say for virtual interviews, make sure you set your room really well. And this is something I tell everybody, that if you're going to have a virtual interview, every human brain creates a perception about the other person in the first 5 seconds. So as soon as I turned on my camera, you guys saw me, you created a perception about me. Well, some of you might have already seen me on YouTube, but I'm just saying, when you guys look at each other, everybody creates a certain perception about somebody else. Okay. So when you're sitting for the interview, my suggestion is set up your room really well. You want to have a good background, you want to have good lighting, you want to have a good sound system, or whatever your mic, or and a good internet system. Because I had people in the past, and in my own interview for NYU, the internet connection went down. It wasn't my internet connection, it was actually the professor's internet connection. But from your side, make sure you have good internet connection. I was in one interview, this was for a different place. I set up that I was going to do the interview in the library. So I wore a suit, I went to the library, and their air conditioning wasn't working. So I was sweating like a pig up there, and it was really humid and all of that. But I'm just saying that wherever you're going to be doing your interviews, make sure you set up the room really well, and you do a couple of practice Zoom session. Why? Because you want to test your internet, you want to test your sound system, you want to make sure that it's up to the mark. Okay. The other thing I tell everybody right now, I'm looking in the camera when I'm speaking, and now I'm looking at the screen when I'm speaking. It makes a lot of difference. When you're speaking, you look in the camera. And
Anjali?
I, you had a question, Doc? Dr. Gurveer?
No, doc.
Okay. Okay.
All
Well,
good.
hello. All right. So here's the thing. So I'll tell you that make sure you look in the camera. And most of us, we didn't grow up in families of actors and actresses, and we are camera shy. I'll tell that a lot of people, when I did this for the first time too, it makes us conscious when we sit in front of the camera, and we get a little bit conscious. Some people start fixing their hair, or they start scratching their face, or they get tense. So make sure that, first of all, don't look at yourself, look in the camera and get comfortable with it. And even obviously, when you're going to sit for the interview, you're going to be wearing professional clothes, you're going to be wearing a coat, you're going to not have your glasses. Because this is just my suggestion for interview, if you can wear contact lens or not wear glasses, because your glasses will reflect the screen, so you won't make good eye contact. This is just my suggestion. So For the interview day, if you're uh, or for the interview day, if you don't want to wear glasses, that's better off because the screen glares at you. So you can, so that's one other thing. One other point that I want to tell everybody, and one of the doctors have it, is make sure if you have a Zoom interview, have really good headshot pictures on your Zoom profile. Well, Dr. Jaspreet has, well, I don't presume that Dr. Jaspreet, but Dr. Jaspreet has a picture up here I can see, but have a really good professional profile picture on your Zoom, because if you just have a random picture or just like your name, it shows them that you haven't used Zoom much. You're not a very professional person. And I'm not saying my picture is very good right now. It's not, it's, if I was going for an interview, I would change it. But just to give you like a little bit of glimpse, like something of a good headshot picture. It's not the most professional picture of mine, but you want to put it up that shows them that you're a Zoom user and you know the professional like ethics and kind of like that, like you're accustomed to using Zoom. It gives a little bit more professional touch. And you use your first and last name. Like, don't put, like some people would have their iPhone or something like that. Just try to do that. Other thing I'll say is make sure you have a cup of water. That helps too. Now, coming to the interview part, different schools have different panels up there. For example, some schools have a panel of couple of different people interviewing you. Like UCLA had two professors sitting when I went in for the interview. On the other hand, some school would just have one person, like Pittsburgh or Boston or back when I was doing in NYU, had one professor just sitting in there and doing an interview. And 99% of the time, they will ask you a question which will start off from tell me about yourself. And I tell everybody that if you want to do really good in your interview, your tell me about yourself is like the, it's like the prefix of your book. Like that's like the, you know, every book has like a title or something like that. It's like the main thing that's going to create an image about you in their head. So if you can conquer your tell me about yourself, that can make a lot of difference. If anybody of you guys are comfortable, first of all, does anybody have a question right now? Because I feel like I'm talking to myself. Okay, that's fine.
No.
Okay. The other, now here's the thing. If anybody is interested, I can help them create their tell me about yourself. Does anybody wants to do, and you don't have to give me all your honest information. You can give me false information or whatever information you're comfortable. But if you want me to prepare your tell me about yourself, I can help you with that. Does anybody wants to volunteer? Yes, Dr. Patel, Janki Patel, you're mute right now.
Yes, doc.
Okay, okay, Dr. Janki, right? So imagine just for a second, this is not a class, nobody's sitting there. You're in a school environment and the professor asks you, tell me about yourself, doctor, or tell can you tell us about yourself? How will you answer it?
So, like, do I have to go through a dentistry or do I have to go through?
Whatever you
I,
feel is right, whatever is totally your, there's no right and wrong. Imagine you can do whatever you want to. We won't fail you. So tell us about yourself, whatever's you're comfortable.
so I belong to India. I'm from India. I did my dentistry there. I have my strong background as my mom and my grandfather, they're dentists. That made me go through this profession.
Mhm,
Another, I'm I can say that I'm a strong, hardworking, but I do dedicate myself in this passion.
mhm. Okay. All right. For first of all, thank you for your bravery and courage to even volunteer. Okay. So, Dr. Janki, I'm going to ask you some questions. You're more than welcome to not give any answer you're not comfortable. All right. I just want to know a little bit more about you so I can form an answer for you. All right. So you you said you grew up in India. What part of India did you grow up? Gujarat?
I'm from Ahmedabad, Gujarat.
Okay, you're from Ahmedabad, and you mentioned that your mother was a practicing dentist. Your grandfather was a dentist too. Okay.
Yes.
I'll take a question after this, doctor. Okay, so next thing, what if you don't mind me asking about your father or his side? What profession were they in?
So he's a builder.
Okay,
He does, yeah,
construction and that kind
construction.
of work. Okay,
Yeah.
and how many siblings are you, if you don't mind me asking?
So my brother, he's also dentist.
Okay, and what? So your mother's influence was the main thing that got both of you into dentistry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell me like what was the high school name that you went to?
I went through. It was Anand, Ananya Vidyalay.
Okay, all right. And the dental school you went to was in Gujarat.
Yes.
Okay. And was there, except for all of us who went to BDS, did 4 years of schooling, 1 year of internship, but beside that, was there any other activities you liked to do when you were younger or in dental school? Any
Yes.
sports?
I was a classical dancer.
Okay. Any other dramatics or anything else, cooking, any other activity that you
I
want
used
to?
to play cricket
Okay.
in my school.
Okay. And during your dental school, did you do any? And people who are getting bored right now, we are just gathering raw material. Wait till we get to the end and I'll try to show you what I'm doing. Okay. So the next thing was, did you do any dental camp, any other
Yes. And
activities, organize a festival or anything like
I
that?
was I was in one of organization which was a people um which helped the kids doing like if they need bags in rural area, we used to go there, provide them bags, books. We
Mhm.
were running a personal organization where we used to help others.
Okay. And
Yep.
after your graduation, any other dental school experience that was important to you?
So I did my dental assisting in US for 3.5 years.
Okay, we'll
I
go
got,
there. Wait. So right now,
uh,
dental school. Any other activity or any important landmark during your dental school, like during your BDS?
I was a part of uh, a Guinness World Record, which my college did. It was
What was that?
17 people checkup, dental checkup in a single day.
Okay, all right, that's fun. Okay, so after your dental school, what did you do?
After my dental school, the same year I graduated, same month I moved in US.
What
I
year
did my
was that?
2019.
Okay, you moved to US. What which state, doc?
I moved in Ohio,
What part of Ohio? It, so
Cincinnati.
oh wow, you live in my city. I gotta be careful.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
okay, yeah. So okay, next thing. So you moved up here. What did you do? Let's make it faster for other
So
people.
I did my radio. I got my radiology license in the next month, April. Then I started dental assisting in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm,
I did for 3.5 years. Then I moved to Columbus, the
mm-hmm,
next city.
mm-hmm,
Then I started prepping for my NBD. And
mm-hmm. So the dental assisting you've done is a general dentist practice. What
so
kind of?
I practiced at the three offices. One was pediatric dentist, one was general, and
Mm-hmm.
another was endo.
Okay, and you did your INBD. Any other any volunteer work that you did in US? Any extracurricular activity? Any sports? Anything like that?
I with volunteer work, I do go to temple volunteer. I have one church,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm doing from last 2 years.
What
I
church
have
is it?
so is it in it's in Middletown.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Baptist church.
Okay, and what are you doing with them?
So just at every Sunday we go there and like everyone pray like prays after prayer. They have like a dinner and we
Mm-hmm.
serve dinner to the old people.
Okay, all right. Any other work?
Yeah, I do go to temple where we make food every Friday and Saturday. So
Okay,
same
uh,
thing with
okay. Anything else beside this?
Red Cross. I'm
What?
a blood
Mm-hmm.
donor ambassador there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else beside this? Okay. Were you the eldest in your family or the youngest?
Youngest.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna be you for a minute. Okay, Dr.
Okay.
Janki. This is that I'm gonna be Dr.
Or-
Janki for him. So if I was you and if I have to answer this, so and everybody, rest of the people who are listening, I was trying to gather some information about her. So if I was I'm her and they ask me, tell me about yourself, I would say, okay, Dr. Janki, ask me, tell me about yourself. Say, tell me about yourself, Dr. Janki.
Yes. Tell me about yourself, Doc.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Janki Patel. I was born and raised in the central part of India, which is called Gujarat. And I would say I was fortunate that I grew up the youngest in a house where my mother and even my grandfather was a dentist. So since an early age, I saw plaster all around my house and a lot of dentures and alginate impressions. But along with that, my father used to work in construction business where he would be working with his hand, and I saw him fixing a lot of things, and that kind of encouraged me to work with my hands since an early age. And I used to shadow my mother's clinic, talk to different kind of patient, and that brought me interest in working with other human beings and trying to understand their pain and helping them out. And I was fortunate that I got accepted to a really good dental school in Gujarat, where not only did I get to do a lot of didactic work, clinical work, but also be part of extracurricular activities as well. I was trained as a classical dancer, and I had the opportunity to be a part of a Guinness World Book record in my dental school, where we did a lot, where we did the most dental checkup in one day in whole of India. In 2019, after my graduation, I was fortunate to move to United States, and I landed in Midwest in Ohio. And I would say I've been fortunate because in the past 3 years, I have opportunity to work in three different dental practices, including an endodontic practice, pediatric, and in a journal practice as well. Beside this, I'm an ambassador with the Red Cross, and on my weekends, I like to volunteer with the Baptist Church and Hindu temple. And I would say I'm an extrovert and I like to work with other people. I try to listen to them, and that's something that has helped me a lot in my life. So this is just a glimpse. I don't know your personal statement. I don't know your detail, and I don't have enough time to go into all of that detail. But this is for everybody that if you're going to tell me about yourself, think about the most important part of your life. And when I'm working with anybody, I try to listen their story. And for most probably, Dr. Janki is somebody who's an extrovert. So you kind of figure out in their life what is the most important parts or what are the things that make them unique, and you try to pick them out and create an outline of your story. So whatever I mentioned in the tell me about yourself, that gave an introduction of her life. All right. And what I tell people is that whatever you mention in your tell me about yourself, the next questions will come out of that. They will get curious and say, oh, you lived in Midwest, what part of it, how was the volunteer work? Or the next question would be, what was the Guinness World Book record? Or what made you move to US? So your next, you're actually pitching ideas in their head to ask you the next question. And I tell people to always start from your origin, because that's very important. It kind of, it gives them a complete picture. If most of us just say I graduated in 2019 and I moved from India, well, you're starting the movie from in between. You have to bring them a little bit from the back and tell them who you are. That gives them, that creates a better relationship. Like they can have a better image of who you are as a person and where you're coming from. uh so there was somebody who was asking question, Dr. uh who was asking question, as and somebody raised hand. Does anybody wants to ask a question right now? Okay, so this is one thing that helps. Other thing I'll tell people is that I read this research that, and I personally am not a big fan of this thing, but people who are extroverts and people who are good looking, they get better results in interviews. I'm not a big fan of this, but this is the honest truth, because I'm gonna say something that which most people won't like, but interviews are kind of like a third. they are an act, they are a theater. Because to be honest, in 30 minutes I can't know who Dr. Jaspreet is really, or I can't know who Dr. Arti is in really in 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes you can only provide information which is relevant and which will make sense. Because if you try to go into too much detail of things, they can get confused. So you need to be very careful of what information am I capable of providing in the next 30 minutes. So somebody said me a question, what to say when they ask why dentistry in US. So Dr. Who's Millie Patel. So what would your answer be? Since you asked the question, now what answer would you give?
Hi. So my answer can be dentistry in USA because advanced technology and the insurance things works the way in USA, and it inspires me a lot. Like people have accessible dental care.
Mhm. Okay. So here's a couple of things I'll tell you. First of all, everybody's answer would be a little bit different, and I want them to be different. Why? Because you don't want to use one fit all answer. But if, for example, I would give my answer like I I'm going to give you a generic answer right now, but you need to fine tune it to your own story. For example, you can mention that when I was studying in my BDS program, I got the opportunity to take some conferences or do some CE courses or attend some seminar from a American trained dentist. Right. And that kind of opened up my eyes to the innovation that is going on in US, and that encouraged me to pursue dentistry in the United States. That's one answer. Now, on the other hand, somebody like Dr. Janki, she could mention that when I was in my dentist school, I got to learn about a lot of new innovation and technique that was going on. And personally, my parents, my mother was highly invested in me to pursue advanced education in dentistry in the United States. And since an early age, she taught me that the most innovative dentistry right now is being done in the United States. And in order to be the best, you have to learn from the best. And that was one of the reason I moved to United States, right? But everybody's story, you this is something I'm saying this on recording, and everybody might try to say the same words, but you want to bring something personal, like how I'm telling that her mother said this or taught her this. You might have some colleague, some mentor, or some of you guys had relatives in US and you visited and you saw the overall environment in US, the healthcare, the technology, the civilization as a whole, how much advanced it was, and it fascinated you. So some of you are from Canada. So kind of that. So you have to, you can mention that I wanted to grow and I wanted to learn and I wanted to be in a place in the which has the most innovative dentistry. But you also need to add some personal touch to it, that what
So,
gave you the push.
for
Yeah.
example, mine was that I married to my husband, and then I have to move in USA.
Well, you can mention that my family was migrating to US, or after my marriage, my family or I was getting married to United States, and I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to learn more and grow, and this way I was moving to US. I personally feel like, and I understand most of people are getting married and moving to US, but for the interview, make it sound that you wanted to learn. That's a better answer rather than saying I got married and eventually I had to move up here because my spouse was moving, so I have to study. It sounds more like because you were put into that situation, so you're doing it. You want to make it sound like, if I'm in somebody in admission committee, I would rather pick somebody who tells me that I had a dream and I wanted to make it, and that's why I moved to US, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
So,
these are the fine lines where you have to figure out, I'm not going to lie, but how can I make my words and my story more audible to the American ears? All right. There's a fine line with words and your story with the way you form it. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So again, coming back to that original question, does anybody has question right now? Okay. Sorry. I ended up eating the chocolate, so I'm crunching on it. So you tell me about yourself is one of the most important. Any school will ask you this. The next question they can ask you is, tell us about a strength in your personality or a weakness in your personality. Does anybody wants to volunteer? I can ask one of you guys about this question. Not Dr. Janki, she already did her part, but somebody else want to volunteer?
I can go ahead, Doctor.
Who's that? Sorry, Dr. Aarti?
Aarti?
Okay, so Dr. Aarti, uh, I'm going to ask you, and before I ask you this question, sorry, let me complete this thought, that a lot of people, in they tell me about themselves, will say, my name is Adriel William, as you already know. And during my master's program, they made us do a lot of presentation. And one of the things they taught us in communication, never think or never assume your audience already know. It will make you look like cocky and arrogant. Like, for example, I start the class and I say, well, my name is Adriel William, as all of you have seen me on YouTube. You will think he's an arrogant jerk. In the same way, wherever you go for an interview or a presentation, always introduce yourself and never assume that they know. Like if you're explaining India to a US person, don't assume he would know where Gujarat would be or where Punjab would be. All right. So some people, I have a lot of candidates who will say, I used to play cricket in India or Pakistan. And I would tell them, explain them a little bit, never assume they would know because they might not know what cricket is, and just say that I used to play a sport cricket, which is similar to baseball, and I played it for 10. So always it shows you a little bit more humble and kind of like considerate about other people. Okay, that's one other point. So Dr. Aarti, here's a question. If in the interview they ask you is, can you tell me about a weakness in your personality?
I would say my weakness is public speaking, which I'm working on.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna piggyback on some info. I'm gonna try to assume your profile. I don't want to go into all the detail about your profile, but I'm gonna make a, a fake one, or kind of like uh so if your answer is this, here's a couple of things I'll tell people. Even when you're talking about your weakness, you talk about your weakness, your failures, your vulnerability, which is a good thing because you're connecting with them, but then tell them how you're overcoming that. You don't want to leave an answer at a negative aspect. You want to create positivity in it, because if I say something negative, you guys will associate that negative thought with my personality. Whenever you will think about Adriel, you will think about that negative thing he said. So if you're going to answer this, if I would answering this being Dr. Aarti, I would say, well, one of the things I've learned in the past, that I had a little bit of discomfort in doing public speaking. I think I grew up as an introvert and I never liked being in a big crowd speaking in front of people. But one of the things that has helped me recently is working as a dental assistant in the United States, because now I am the first person the patient meets when they come to the clinic. I get to introduce them about me, about the doctor, about the practice, and what's going to be done today. And that has something of an icebreaker that has helped me to grow as a human being and as a professional. So if you're talking about some weakness, you always want to show what you have done to improve it. That makes you look like somebody who's a positive pusher, or somebody who likes to get done things in a positive aspect. Okay. Now, on the other hand, they can ask you, tell me about your strength. Does anybody wants to uh, answer this? Dr. Esther,
I
Yep. Who wants to do it? Yep. Doc.
I can I
How do you
can
pronounce
answer
your
this
name,
question.
doctor? I'm sorry.
Supriya.
Supriya.
Hmm.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Supriya. Yep. So if I ask you an interview, what is your strength? Or tell me
I
about a
would
strength.
uh, firstly, I can turn negative situation into a positive ones. Like if there's any challenging situation or a challenging patient who comes to my office,
I can, treat that. Like, it is not uncommon for somebody who gets frustrated or feel upset when you see that kind of patients, but I would channel my energy, try to treat that patient with utmost care, and uh, like I would see more, treat that patient with more care, and until the patient is satisfied enough. Like, on my personal note, I add on this to my personal life by uh, whenever I had some disagreements with my husband, I would channel my energy in creating or doing some micro artwork, working on myself by painting, instead of getting into heated arguments.
Okay, Dr. Supriya, can you tell me quickly about your profile? What part of India you are? When did you do your graduate?
I I come from southern part of India, Hyderabad,
Mm-hmm.
and I was grown into a very large family, like 20
Mm-hmm.
members living under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
So, at a very young age of my life, I learned compassion, empathy, and patience. I think all these helped me to grow well as a person, like both in my personal and professional life. So, my uncle's a general physician. So, he's my inspiration to, choose health choose healthcare profession. So later I decided to become a dentist, and I'm the first dentist in my family, and I'm the elder one in my family.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are really proud of me becoming the first dentist of family and taking care of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, I like cooking, and my husband loves biryani, so I learned biryani for my husband, and now I can make good biryani.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
And what year did you graduated in India?
I graduated in 2020.
And after that, when did you move to US?
I moved to US after my marriage in 2021
Okay.
November, like 2022.
And what have you been doing since then?
I started working as a dental assistant after moving to the US. It's been
Mm-hmm.
1 year, 1.5 year. I started working as a dental assistant, and I'm currently working as a dental assistant.
Mm-hmm. And any volunteer work?
Yes, I did. I did volunteering at Khalsa Care, Sikh community volunteering. Like, they offer, that's a food pantry. I do
Mm-hmm.
volunteer every Friday over there, and I started volunteering as an English literacy tutor for adults here in the library.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And also, I volunteer as a blood donor ambassador at Red Cross.
Okay. And what would, if I ask you, what would be a weakness in your personality? What would you say?
I think I overthink a lot. Like, when it comes to something which is really important to me, I overthink a lot, and I tend to have backup. I try to have backup plans, and that overthinking will give me so much stress and anxiety. And I am currently working on that,
Okay.
and by
Okay.
being mindful.
Okay. All right. So I was trying to be brief. I can't go into more detail right now, but just to
Okay.
rephrase whatever information you gave, if they ask me, tell me about a strength in your
Mm-hmm.
personality, and I was Dr. Supriya, I would say, I believe one of the things that has helped me in the past is that my ability to connect with other people and help them in
Mm-hmm.
time of pain and difficulty. This
Okay.
was something of an attribute that I grew at an early age because I grew up in a very diverse and big joint family where I was the eldest kid and I had to take responsibility of my younger siblings and cousins and friend, and that kind of built a state of empathy in me. So, and I think that's something I bring into my dental practice or my profession as well, that I want to take care of my patients. And the first thing I've learned from that is active listening, and listening to their problems is one of the key things in building a strong connection with them. So if I have to reform your answer, that's how I would do it. Now, and you're on mute, doc. And if I go on the other hand, if they ask me about a weakness from the information you gave me, I would say one of the things I've learned from my past. So see how and this is for everybody. You should be very attentive to how you start a question. how you start an answer or how you start an sentence. Using the word. One of the things I've learned from my past is that I have ability to overwhelm myself with a lot of responsibilities that tend to lead me into an overthinking. And I think that's a curse of being an eldest child, because you take responsibilities and you try to take care of others. But one of the things I've learned from my husband, from my friends now, is that there are certain things you can control and there are certain things that are beyond your control. And I try to write down my problems and try to focus on the things that are controllable, so I can narrow down my problems and just work on the things that can be improved. And that is something that has helped me in the past, and I hope to continue on it as I move forward in my life. So I don't know if this is making sense to the rest of the people as well, but what I'm trying to do up here is I'm trying to gather raw material from her or her answers and just rephrasing them in a different way, so it sounds a little bit more interesting and audible to the audience, all right, or to your interviewer. Does And everybody, I'm going to be very honest, over the past 4 years when I worked with doctors, all of us dentists, unless somebody is a drug addict or something like that, 80 or 90% of us have the same problem. We are overthinkers. We try to look things into minute detail because we are dentists. We take a lot of stress because we are all immigrants, and immigration is not easy. It sucks the life out of you. And so and pretty and we are very empathetic. Like somebody just, Dr. Safa, you asked me this question, and if somebody has question, you're more than welcome to open up the mic, because I might not be reading the comments. You asked me that is overcaring might be a weakness, or uh overcome by realization is important to us. Like, okay, she asks is if over caring for other people is a weakness. Here's the truth: we all are dentists, we treat human beings. So dentists or healthcare workers, and most of you guys are females, they are more empathetic. They tend to care about other people, and they have more empathy, and they are more agreeable. So as a dentist, we all have similar kind of weakness where we tend to be very agreeable person. We will put people's comfort ahead of us, and we try to overcare. All right, that can be a potential weakness. But here's the important thing: whenever you talk about a weakness, try to give a story and how you overcame it. Like, you want to tell, like, provide something personal. Like, all of us can say we tend to overthink, or we try to take on more responsibility, but then add a story to it. Make it your personal. It's just like all of you guys bought a car, but you hang some kind of cross on it, or some kind of thing on it, or a star, or put something that customizes the car into yours. So imagine all these answers. 80% of us have similar personality types. Most of most of the candidates up are coming from India. Most are females. So you would have a lot of personality type or answers which would be similar. But what would make it original and more interesting is adding some kind of story of your own. And I want to see in the group, there's Dr. Tiffany. If I can see your picture right in front of me. If you have any question for us, do ask, please. If anybody from the people who are mute, if you guys have Dr. Varun, if you have any question, Dr. Muskan, if you guys have any question, you can ask too. Or Dr.
No
Varun also.
questions right now, Doc.
Okay, all right. Yes, Dr. Varun, I think I just woke you up.
No, actually, I was driving during the webinar, just reached home. So I was listening everything.
Okay, good. So do you have any
Like,
question out of these things?
just wanted to ask, like in our intro, can we add the games I have played in my school and
What game?
in my dentistry?
Did you play games with human beings, or what games were they?
Yeah, I was born on a land like my village has given 21 Olympians to India.
Hmm.
So it's in our blood to play field hockey.
Okay, so you've been into field hockey. Okay, so if
Yeah.
I was you, I would say that so here's a big thing I'll tell people is that in America, well, everywhere, but in America, there's a very much big, they really like sportsmen. in dental school.
Okay.
Like there's a certain uh it's a positive aspect that comes with sportsmen. Now here's a fine line. You want to talk about your sportsmanship and not look like a total jock. So
Okay.
you're going to use your sports, and it's a very important, and you can use it in different stories. For example, in your introduction, in your childhood, you can mention that I grew up in a small village or a rural town which was famous for its field hockey, and down at that age I was very much interested in playing field hockey and I grew into it. But there was one incident where one of our team player got his front teeth knocked off during the game, and that was a very interesting experience because we had to carry him to the dental office nearby where his teeth were restored, and you saw all of that treatment, and that encouraged you to look into dentistry. But your passion for sports didn't die, and for you were able to play at a national level or team level or college level hockey, and that has taught you a lot. Now the other way, I'm just telling you, in one of my interview they asked me, I was trying to act all big and saying I did this and that and that, and in the interview panel there was a student. uh, he said, well, how about this, doc, can you tell us about a weakness or a time when you failed? And I was like, I didn't thought about it. What failure can I say? And I took a minute. I said, well, the failure I can think about is when I used to play basketball. There was a whole tournament that we lost because I was the basketball team captain and I didn't make the right decision. I took some decision for the team. I substituted the player where we lost the whole match and got kicked out of the tournament. And one of the things I learned out of that failure is that if you're a team player or a leader, you have to take responsibility of those failures. You have to be the first one to own it. And if you
Right.
win, you should be able to if you win the game or win the tournament or win the situation, you should be able to include your whole team into it. You didn't win
Right.
by yourself, you win because of your team. And that was an important lesson I learned through my sports. So you can bring up different ways, like you can use that one, because sports has a lot of things. Sports will teach you about failures, about teamwork. Like if you have to give, and Dr. Tiffany, I'll get back to you just a minute, is that if they ask you question like a teamwork, you can talk about your experience in field hockey, that you uh, or badminton, or somebody played cricket. Is that in one of the things I learned through my sport is that you have different personality types and not everybody functions the same way. But as a team player or a captain or a leader, you should be able to analyze which player would be the best suited. The other thing is
Right.
focus on communication. All right.
Okay.
That communication in any teamwork, having a huddle, morning huddle is very important, or coaching was very important. So it your experience can be used in different answers, but you don't want to use it too much. Like in every answer you're using field hockey, right?
Right.
You can use it once or twice, but it can provide you the necessary stories to give answers. All right.
And in our dentistry school as well, I did two plays for Anti-Tobacco Day and on Women's Day. Like I
Okay.
was a lead hero in both of them.
Okay,
So
so
can
yep,
I add that as well?
it depends on what the question is, so I'll stick
Like
to
in my
that.
intro.
So here's the thing. I would have to go into the whole detail of your story.
Okay.
Now, no, sports is important. I don't know
Right.
the rest of your profile. It depends
Yeah.
on what you have and how
Mm.
much. If imagine if in your life you have done 20 things, right? And you only have 2 to 3 minutes. Now you're gonna pick out of those 20, what big
Okay.
are the 10? You write down
Right.
which are the big top tens, and you're going to focus more on them. If somebody asks me, your experience in US is more important than your experience in India because it can't be
Right.
lied, right?
Right.
So, or Canada. So if you have done, so you make a list of 10 things which you feel are very important out of your life, or 15. These are the things you want to touch upon. All right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
out of those, then you're going to see which one I'm going to focus more and which ones I'm just going to like just scroll over really fast. Okay.
Right.
uh Let me have Dr. Tiffany, do you had
Thank
a
you.
question? Yep, I'll get back to you on these when we get move forward with the next question. Dr. Tiffany, you want to You had a
Yes,
question?
Doc. It
Yeah.
was back on the weaknesses. So for me, I just wanted to find out if saying this is like too bad. Is that the truth? But at the same time, I wanted to find out if it's okay. So for me, I would say that my weakness that I found out in the past is that my attitude while being patient has been an issue. It's not the best. But then over the years, I've learned how to handle it in a better way. And after relating with people and actually seeing it from other people, I noticed that it wasn't such a great thing, and I've been actively working to make it better.
Okay. So where are you originally from, Doc?
Okay, so I'm originally from Jamaica.
Okay. And can you quickly, like briefly tell me about your profile?
Okay, about my profile. So I'm from Jamaica,
Mhm.
from the Garden Parish. So I grew up here all my life, and then I went to China for dental school. I'm the eldest of six siblings, and while in dental school, I actively participated in a lot of activities. I led my dental cohort throughout all my tenure during dental school, also as a basketball team captain, planned and organized a lot of outreaches to the community, just lending a helping hand, not only dentally related, but, supplying people with needs that they didn't have. While growing up, I was actually really hands-on. My dad was a craft worker. So I used to making jewelries and just pieces from wood. So I really enjoy using my hand from a really early age. And yeah, basketball, being a
Okay, quick
team.
question. You said you grew up in US.
Oh no, in Jamaica.
Okay. And you said you moved to US and then you went back to your dental school for dental
No, I
schooling?
didn't move to US. I moved to China for dental school.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Well, that's a fascinating story. It depends on how you put it in because you bring a lot of diverse experience. You grew up in Jamaica, but you went to a whole different continent, whole different culture, ethnicity to do dental schooling, and then you moved to. So here's all the people who have done a couple of different migrations or moved. You want to, like, there will be people in the group who went to Canada and now applying to US. If you have done migration once, the dentist schools will like you because it shows that you have the capacity to adapt. That's very important. So you want to leverage that. So that's one thing. Now, coming to your answer where you said you have a difficulty with your patients, you don't want to say that. That's a big no. No, no, no. You can't say that in an interview because an interview in 30 minutes, I tell people interviews are an act, it's a theater. If you say the wrong words or the wrong things in that 30-minute theater, you're going to trigger anger or negativity in your audience, in your interviewers, and they won't like you. Okay. So if I have to rephrase it, your answer, I would say that I grew up in Jamaica and I felt at an early childhood, I went into basketball and started playing sportsmanship, and it brought a certain level of ambitiousness and I would say assertiveness and aggression in my personality. But later on, when I moved to China, one of the things I've learned that you can't be very upfront and straightforward in your communication all the time. When I did this migration, I learned to be more humble, adaptable in understanding other person because this time I had to learn their language and their culture, and it taught me what it means to be an outsider in a system. And I think after that experience, I became a little bit more humble in my temperament and with my patients as well. So I'm kind of using your story, but I'm trying to focus much more on the positive aspect because
Got
you
it. That's good.
don't couple of things, people. In your interviews, never try to say things like I had temperamental issues, I had mental health issues, or I have physical issues like a neck issue or back issue or something like that, or I have some big medical issue. If there's something a little bit you got over it, it's fine. But because schools are really scared if we get a trouble in our school for next 2 years, if this person gets sick, if this person is not a team player, if this person can drop out, we will lose a lot of money and time and energy and effort. So they don't want people. who can create these issues. The other thing is, I'm telling you one thing, dental schools are not looking for the most genius doctors. They are looking for the most uh, constructive team player. So I was working with somebody who had a very superb type of resume, really good academic. Like this guy was on top of everything. And I told him, like, you're going to have a very difficult time when it comes to teamwork questions, because people who are overachievers, they tend to be very selfish. Like people who have done a lot, they tend to think about themselves. That's why they are going up and up. And the schools want to have somebody who's very teamwork oriented, because they don't want to have fights and issues. And I'm not going to go into detail, but when I was a dental student, I saw all of this, and it's a headache for them. This is somebody who grew up in America but have to resolve a fight which is coming from Delhi. Like two people are having issues and they have their issues, so they have they don't want to deal with all that crap. So they are much more focused on getting in people who are very teamwork oriented. So in your answers, in your story, try to use things that shows you as a more or a better team worker. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. So any question, guys? Anybody else have a question? Dr. Sadal, if I'm pronouncing the name right.
Hello, sir. That's Mrinalini actually.
Sorry.
It's Sadal is my initial.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yes. Any questions, Doc?
Yeah, doctor. So I wanted to ask you that few of my schooling year was in Saudi Arabia.
You're originally
I
from?
was just, I'm originally from India. I'm from
Uh,
southern part of India, but can I briefly explain my profile to you,
yes, sure.
if it's fine? Yeah, so I was born in the northern part of India, Jharkhand. And then after my few years of schooling there, I was then like my father got a job in Saudi Arabia and we all shifted there. And later, after studying there for 3 to 4 years, again shifted to the southern part of India, Andhra Pradesh.
Hmm.
And like in my family, there is not a single person who is related to dentistry field. My brother is originally he's related to medical field, but I'm the first dentist in my family.
Hmm.
I graduated in the year of 2022, and the very next year I got married. That's 2023, and I shifted to the US.
Hmm.
So this is a brief introduction about me, doctor.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask if in the introductory part, I
Hmm.
have mentioned about my education of in the like in the Middle East in my SOP. But since you said that not many schools will be actually knowing your SOP, so is it okay if I'll mention about my, the diverse culture which I had experienced in Saudi? Is
So
it okay
did
to
you
mention?
when you went to Saudi Arabia, were you in high school?
I was in my third grade, sir,
Okay.
doctor.
And
Like third.
what profession did your parents or your father worked in?
My father is an engineer, sir. He's like into steel plant manufacturing
Okay.
industries. Yeah.
Okay. So if I would answer this, okay, just give me 1 minute. Just give me
Okay.
1 minute. To quickly answer your question, yes, you can talk about it, and there are a lot of people I met where their family moved to Saudi Arabia for work. This is very common, even in Americans, because Saudis pay very good, right? Oil money. So a lot of people move up there from Pakistan, even from US. So if I was mentioning your story, I would somewhat say that uh, I'm gonna pronounce your name wrong. So can you
Yes,
tell me again?
it's Mrinalini.
Is there a
It's a
nickname?
bit tough
Okay, I'm gonna say
word.
Dr. M for now, just for the sake, and I'm
Okay,
I'm
okay,
sorry for
doctor.
it.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
it's
so
okay, doctor.
so I would say that my name is Dr. Miradani, and I grew up in South India, and I would say I was fortunate that at an early age my father found a really lucrative job in Saudi Arab, and at the age of 9, my family moved to Saudi Arab. And at that time, I got to study in an American school where there was a lot of diversity. I got to see a lot of people coming, or a lot of other students who were coming from different part of the world. Our school teachers was run through an American administrative system, which has exposed me to diversity and some international education as well. And after living couple of years in Saudi Arab, my family moved back to India, where I went into the profession of dentistry. I would say, fortunate that I found some really good mentor that I got to shadow, and got into a very good dental school. Uh, During my 4 years of dental school, I did this, and after my graduation, I got the opportunity to move to United States. And since the past 1 year, I've been working as a dental assistant. I've been doing shadowing, or I've been doing volunteer work at this organization. And in my part leisure time, I like to read books, cook, or do classical dancing, or whatever it is. All right.
Yes, doctor. Okay, doctor. Thank you so much.
Sure. Dr. Jaspreet, you look very intense right now. And do you have any question for us, Dr. Shergill? Yeah.
No, not right now. I just want to ask, like, I forgot my question now. Uh, like schools ask, like, why you want to come to our school, right? So in that school, do we have to like resonate their values to ours value, or like
Okay.
how to?
Couple of things. Every school is different. Okay. And your exposure, and when you say we our values have to resonate with them, I'm going to break this down. So what you want to do is find something in your personal, in your story, that you can relate to that school. All right. For me, for example, I told NYU. Okay, I told NYU that I personally lived in Philadelphia about 2 years. During that time, I got to be in New York a lot of time. I studied in Maryland, so I was exposed to the East Coast. And personally, I know that NYU is one of the most well-rounded program. Not only does it provide you really good didactic and clinical exposure, but even living in New York City is a learning in itself. And I have family up there or friends up there. And because of these reasons, I feel being in a school like NYU, not only will I learn really good clinical dentistry, but also learn a lot of professional aspect of life, because they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right? So this was the kind of answer I gave. So now you have to find something unique. And this is something when I work with candidates one on one, I try to go into detail and try to figure out, okay, what's unique about your story, and what's that can be fit in with that school or their location or their city or their alumni or their research, and try to connect that. All right. So that's a little bit of like artwork where you have to figure out. Right.
And for the thing, like you always look into the camera, right? But when I am talking to you, I try to see your face. So in that time, I'm not looking at the camera. Did you put something on near the camera so that
I
your
ca-
eyes go there?
I cast magic on people. That's what I do. No, you look in. So here's the thing. Right now you're looking at the screen. Don't look at
Yeah, now
look.
I'm.
Yes, now do that. Yep. That's
Oh,
what you do. Okay. That's how
yeah.
it works. So what I tell people is put a sticker up there. Put a sticker or an arrow or a bright yellow dot, something like that, which reminds you to look there. And especially when here's another thing that I do. If I'm saying an answer, especially at the end of answer, leave your you might look into my videos, or even right now when you watch this recording, I try to leave my answer at a positive note. And whenever I feel it's important, I will make an eye contact. That's very important. With the glasses is difficult. So if you
Yeah.
don't wear, so that's difficult, but I would suggest doing that. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, all right. And that's something you play around. You play around with your computer, your room, your lighting, your backgrounds, and eventually down the line, you figure out what's best for you. Right.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Dr. Erica, you want to say something, you or any questions, since you opened up the camera and then disappeared?
How are you? No, I just get into the Zoom. I'm sorry, I'm
Oh,
late.
it's fine. You will have a recording too. So, okay. All right. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome. There's another Dr. Jasprit too in the room. Do you
Thank
have
you,
any?
doctor.
Sure thing, Erica. Dr. Jasprit, any question?
Hello, Dr. William. Yes, I do have a question.
Yes.
What if they ask about the time we committed a mistake while practicing dentistry? What
What
kind of
what do
mistake?
you what do you mean? Sorry, can you repeat that, doc?
What if they ask about a time
Uh-huh.
when we committed a mistake while practicing dentistry?
Okay. Here's the thing. You said they can ask about a question where they can ask, tell us about a time when you did a mistake while you were doing dentistry. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this is one question. They can rephrase it. They can ask, tell us about a time when you failed, or tell us about a time when you made a mistake. Tell us about a time when you learned a lesson in dentistry, or tell us about a time when you saw something unethical in dentistry. They wouldn't say, tell us about a time when you did something unethical, but these
Mm-hmm.
are similar questions. And good that you raised this question is because, to be honest, I've been doing this for 4 years, for more than 4 years or something like that. I've learned one thing: they can change the wording, they can play around with it, but by the end of the day, it's the same thing being asked. So if they ask you, tell us about a time when you made a mistake, well, it depends on you. Do you want to share something of a mistake that you did in the past?
Yeah, like we all commit mistakes.
I,
My question is like whether should we tell our biggest mistakes or like a mistake
That's
from
why
which
I'm
we
trying to
learned?
now.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. If you tell, okay, I don't want to give you my answer because then
Mm-hmm.
200 people will be giving Adriel's answer, right? What I
Yeah.
want to help is you give me
Mm-hmm.
your personal answer and I will rephrase it for you.
Okay. So my answer is that like I was applying base on a cavity, and the thickness of the base was very high, like it was too thick, and eventually the restoration came off. So from that, I got to know that I need to be very accurate while applying base on the cavity. And I have a big mistake as well. Like one of my instruments separated in the root canal, but I always shy away from giving that answer. Always,
But here's the
however.
thing, to be honest, Dr. Jasprit, if you read any endo book and they will write, what are the complication of root canal, and in which in the books have written down that the instrument can break, right? Even in our consent form in US, we write down that the instrument can break. So what you're saying is not a non-human mistake. Every endodontist on earth has broken an instrument in people's canal, right? That's common.
Mhm.
So that it's not a very big mistake. Even in surgery, the book says like one of the biggest complication of extraction is pulling out the wrong tooth, and that happens all the time, right? So that's not a very big mistake. Now it depends on what you learned out of that mistake. That's the important thing. So if I have to rephrase your answer, I would say during my early career in India, when I was doing endodontics, there was an instance where I had a K file and I was using or a hand file, and I ended up breaking it in one of the molar roots because it was curved, and I tried to retrieve that, but I was not able to. So what I did, I stopped at that very moment. I informed the patient that this is what is happening, and in order to complete this treatment, I would refer you to an endodontist where they can try to retrieve this canal. All right, retrieve this instrument. And one of the lessons I learned after that is there are always complications or potential complications when we are doing any treatment. One thing is that we want to take more training. We want to do more training in any field of dentistry if we're going to be performing it. That was the one thing. So I continue to take more C courses regarding this. The other thing was I tried to use a new hand file every time with every new patient. All right. And the third thing is that I try to be very careful now in any dental procedure that I do, that there is a potential chance of breakage or complication. That story has helped me grow personally and professionally. This is one way to put it up. The other thing is in US, schools don't like GPs or dentist student doing a lot of molar endo. All right. You can talk about a premolar, a canine, something like that. But that's how I would put it up. The same answer.
Okay, doc.
N- Now you can also talk about cavity liner. People talk about they the lab sent them the wrong crown. All right, that has happened. Or maybe they were a dentist student, they did a restoration, they fixed everything, polished, but the bite was still high
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't took that in consideration, and after 2 days the patient came in with a lot of cold sensitivity and pain, and you just did the bite and realize why occlusion is so much important in dentistry. That was a lesson you learned through a mistake as well. All
Okay,
right.
doctor. Thank you.
But and Dr. Kavya will come after, will listen to your question after this, but you should be prepared to talk about a mistake in dentistry and outside of dentistry. They can ask you to, like, tell me about a failure in life, tell me about a mistake that you made in life or a lesson that you learned in life. So you should be prepared for both of them. Okay.
Okay, doc. Thank you
All
for
right.
the answer.
So Dr. Kavya, yep, if I'm saying the name right.
Yeah, you're right in pronouncing my name. So, yeah, my question is I would like to add to Jaspreet's question. Um, he was talking about actually a very small mistakes that most of our students do in their dental schools, and especially when because I was from a government college, we were always given the opportunity to just do our treatments on patients. We were not actually taught so much. It's because of the number of patients that come in. So while I was doing my treatments, I had some major mistakes actually, such as pulling a wrong tooth. And during my diploma, I had a I say I don't know whether you remember. There is something called a hex driver, and the patient swallowed it.
Okay,
It
these
just
are okay. Couple of things. Again, we want to. Here's the thing. I tell people, and what you're saying is everybody who's a faculty, who's a doctor, who's practiced for 20, 30 years, everybody has done or seen stupid or big crazy stuff. Everybody has. But
Mhm.
again, I tell people that interviews are a theater. It's a parameter. If you try to be, you have to be honest, but you can't go beyond certain limit of honesty. That will create a little bit ambiguity. So what you're saying is on, like, I when I was a PG in oral surgery, I had a dentist student who ended up giving a IEN block all the way to parotid, and the patient had facial palsy for the next 1 hour, and we just made the patient sit down. Wrong tooth, it happens all the time. You have to be careful. But just for the sake of interview, you don't want to tell something that will create ambiguity in their mind. Maybe this person is lazy or can be carelessness and can cause potential trouble for us in a dentist school. And because in US, legal liabilities are a very big thing.
Mm,
So
yeah.
don't, you want to show vulnerability, but there is a fine line. You have to, I tell people, okay, when it comes to communication, interviews, it's a dance. Imagine, I'm just giving a weird kind of a example, but I tell, like, in interviews, you have to be honest, but you can't be too honest on your first date. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your relationship. So this is what it is. You have to tell them about yourself. But if you start explaining everything on day one, it's not going to work out. So find stories from your life that are true, but don't. And there are certain things Americans can't understand. If I say I was in a oral surgery residency and doing class twos in the evening or doing endo in the evening, it won't make sense to them, right? So
Yeah.
why take them towards that rabbit hole? All right. So this is a piece of art. This is a dance where you have to find out where the fine line is. Okay. And yep, that's how I would answer it.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. I think I
Sure,
got my answer.
sure. So, who else? Dr. Amit was raising hand. I'm
Yeah. Hi, doctor. This is Amit Patil.
yes.
Thank you for being with us. So I have two questions. Firstly, if they ask what you want to do after you graduate with TDS degree in US.
So it depends on you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, like I don't have any idea because because maybe in the school I'll get an idea by talk, like
No,
but
but do you
what do
want to
they
be
expect?
a general
Yeah,
dentist?
clinician.
No, what do you want to specialize? Do you want to be a general dentist? Do you want to be a professor? Do you want to
Okay,
have your own clinic? What do you want to do?
I want to have my own clinic.
Okay. So somebody like you, I don't know your complete story, but just presuming, I would say that my long-term goal is to graduate with a good GPA and then continue to becoming a private practitioner in the United States, where I will continue to take more C courses, enhance my exposure in dentistry, and given the opportunity, I would like to do the procedures that I like to do and do some community work as well.
Okay,
Okay. So
and yeah,
this is a generic one, but the point is a lot of people are going to be hearing this and a lot of people might be repeating these same words. So what you want to do is add something of your personal touch to it, make it
okay,
unique. Okay.
okay. And secondly, I want to ask that I did my specialization in prosthodontics in India, back in India.
Mhm.
So now, if they ask me like, why didn't you choose residency? Why did you choose DDS over residency?
So
So I,
I if I've okay, I understand your question. Sorry, do you want to add something?
no, doctor. Yeah, see.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna give you my example. So I was doing oral surgery residency when I moved to US, and I was doing this applying to DDS, and they asked me, "Do you wanna? Why don't you go for specialization or anything?" And pros is real general dentistry is prosthodontics, to be honest. I don't think pros should be a specialization. That should be the actual dentistry being taught because pros is dentistry, to be honest, and nobody can understand occlusion except for prosthodontists or ortho people. But if I had to give answer, I would say I believe over my experience of time that learning prosthodontics has India in India has given me good foundation in some part of dentistry. But right now, I want to learn more about restorative dentistry, about perio, and use all of these comprehensive uh, all of these all of this fundamental knowledge to be a more comprehensive general dentist in the United States. And if given the opportunity or depending of time, I can go into some residency or even continue to just take C courses and enhance my prospect.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, doctor. Last quick question. If they ask, why did you choose dentistry?
Tell them I didn't get into a medical school. That's why.
Yeah, that was the journey, but we can't say
Well,
that.
it depends on your story again. Like I was talking to Dr. Janki, right? Dr.
Yes, yes,
Janki,
yes, yes.
her mother was a doctor, right? So there's something in your childhood, in your story, somewhere deep down there, you have to connect it with them because I might give you, which is an Adriel's answer, which might not fit into your case. So you have to, again, what I try to teach is, I'm saying this on recording. There were times I had what I do, dental schools don't like it. They think I'm giving a formula to everybody, but to be honest, there's no one formula. What I do is you have to find something from your own story which you can connect and make it look authentic. But
Hmm.
so I again, you have to find something from your own personal life where you didn't. I had people whose parents were medical doctor and they said, well, we saw their life, how they had to take calls and they were never at home. And I thought, I don't want to be a doctor who's not there for his kids at home. That's why I ended up going towards dentistry.
Hmm.
Somebody's parent might be engineers and they worked with their hands. Somebody had broken a tooth like playing field hockey, something like that, and then they went to a dentist and that really inspired them. Somebody had an ortho treatment. So again, you have to find what's unique to you and what's authentic to you, because stay away from formulas. It will just make you look bad. So find something in your story, dig in there, which you can honestly connect. Because to be honest, I can tell you, I can wrote down a whole script of answers for you,
Hmm.
but if it's not your story, you won't deliver it right. People don't see what you say, people see how you say it. Your body language, your eye contact, your confidence, that's what makes a difference. And your body language or your confidence is only good when you're saying the things which are true to you.
Yes.
There are, after a certain level, like if you say something, you you know, I've see people, they're saying, Yeah, I like to do it. Like they are saying I like to do it, and their head is nodding no. And you can actually see in their face and their body language a contradiction. And
Yes.
people can note that. So again, you would have to find a story which can which can resonate, or which can be honest to your story.
Okay, doctor. Thank
All
you.
right? Sure. Okay. Any other question for Dr. Arti? Was somebody was, I don't know, waving, or somebody else has a question before
Yes,
I.
doctor. I raised my hand, but then since you were going on, I just lowered my hand.
So you said this guy is not going to stop speaking. So I. Okay,
No,
good.
I thought I'll come back later once you are done with everybody. Because I
What's up?
thought, so yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having this. Like I attended your last time Zoom session as well, and I did get a lot of pointers. And so my question for you is in continuation what Amit Patel asked right now. About the question of he being a prosthodontist and why not residency and why. So it's in continuation with that, along with the future plan. So that was the kind of question even I got. Um, so how I put it up is like, for me, the short-term goal is complete DDS and learn the dental practice in the United States and continue to go professionally. But in the long term, my plan is to have a private practice that integrates dentistry and lactation in the aspects of treating ties and clefts. So if
Treating
that
what? Sorry.
tongue ties and
Okay.
cleft palate, integrating both the lactation field and dentistry.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm going to stop you right now. So again, you're right. You can say I want to have my private practice and do the procedures which I like to do. Good. But when you say you want to treat, I know a oral surgeon who has done fellowship in like oral and like cleft palate and lip, but he gets lawsuits every month from plastic surgeons for doing that in US. US has a very weird kind of power game. Like I can't explain it, but there are certain things legally there. It's the most challenging thing in US is legal system. So as dentists, we can do a lot, and then we have to know which stepping stone. So do not say very advanced things to school. I just mentioned to somebody, don't even say molar endos. They don't like that. Mention I would refer it. Keep things simple because they are dentist schools will teach you how to do class 2s, how to treatment plan, how to do crown preps, how to do complete denture. They are not going to teach you anything extensive. You might already know how to put implants, do extensive surgery, but they don't really care about it. And if you try to tell them about that, they will just walk away from you a little bit. So keep it simple for them, because I, here's the thing, in dental schools, if they give you a clinical scenario and show you a third molar or a molar endo, they prefer you saying that I would refer this patient to the specialist. That's the kind of answer they want, and that's the kind of ideal student they want. I know you're a seasoned dentist from other part of world where you have done extensive you've done training, you're comfortable doing advanced surgeries and stuff, but they don't want to know it, they don't care, and they don't want people who are adventurous in their school, because they will end up doing things that will be a headache to the school. So they want very linear kind of like average mindset kind of dentist who will come in, follow the rules, follow the curriculum, and pass out. Does that make sense? I'm going into a little bit tricky waters, but I hope this makes sense. Like, don't say too much advanced stuff to them.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Dr. Pragna.
Thank you, doctor.
Sure.
Hi, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for conducting the session. My question is, what's the best way to answer? How do you face criticism? I'm not sure if this question was answered before because I joined a
I
bit
tell
late.
them I if somebody criticizes me, I just block them on Facebook. It depends on what your answers could be. Again, like Okay, I'm gonna. I what would okay. It depends on again your story. What would how would you answer it?
So I've been asked this question before in one of the interviews, and I answered like um, about the about my workplace experience when I was treated different because of my background and my color and stuff. So
Okay, if
um,
doc, if you're gonna answer like you're answering in an interview, you're creating ambiguity. You're saying it was my workplace, my color. Like, where was the workplace? Was it India? Was it
oh,
US?
it
Was it
was in the US.
so you like? Okay, here's the thing. The answer. I'll help you with the answer. Here's the thing. In your communication, you have to I had people who went into an interview, didn't get accepted, and the feedback was like your the candidate, we were not able to get a clear picture or an understanding of what the candidate wants. That's the feedback that they gave. So if you don't communicate, like, you have to make the communication worth it. So if I was saying what you're saying, I would say in the past I had to deal with, well, here's the thing. I'll tell you. So just give me 1 second, sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the past I was one school asked me this question. I'm gonna tell you my own personal story, what happened. And they asked me, what do you do when you face criticism? I said nothing. They said, well, you must do something. Like, what? I said, well, it depends on what the criticism is. If it's coming from somebody who's a friend, who's a mentor, who's a teacher, who, if it's a constructive criticism, I will utilize it to improve myself. Otherwise, I will just ignore it. But they said, well, what would you still do if it's a negative criticism? And they asked me twice. I said, well, here's the thing I'm going to tell you, that I grew up as a Christian in Pakistan, which is a very small minority, religious minority, and you grew up getting a lot of criticism at time. But the point is, you do what you have to do in life, and you just ignore the part which is negative, and that's how any successful person would do. And that's something I continue to work on. All right. Just give me 1 second, please. Just 1 second. Sorry. So what I'm trying to say is that being a minority right now in US overall, people try to talk about, and I know there are a lot of females in the group, and females are in a minority too at time. You might be a religious minority, a ethnic minority in US, India, Pakistan, whatever it is. But I tell people, avoid putting your story in a state of victimhood. Like, I was the victim, I was persecuted, things went. I know bad things happen to people, and there are some really evil people who do evil stuff and do bully you or stuff. But the way you interpret your story, you want to present a positive. I had candidates or people that I worked with who dealt with domestic violence, who went through divorce or went through physical trauma, or I had people who were religiously persecuted in some part of the world. And I tell them, talk about a time when you dealt with criticism, failure, hardship, but mention that what you learned positive out of it. That's a very important thing. So in your case, if I would answer, Dr. Pragna, I would say that there were time when I had to deal with criticism. When I started working in US in a new place, there was as a new employee, I had to deal with criticism. But one thing I've learned, that I need to break down the constructive criticism as compared to the to the negative criticism, which is not useful. So my doctor, who would give me criticism or feedback which was for my own betterment, and I would utilize it to become a better dental assistant and a clinician in the future. But if another colleague is just saying criticism or negative stuff to punch me down, I would try to zone myself out and ignore it, because I know this won't do any good to me. Does that make sense, Doc?
Yes.
Okay. One other thing I'll say, I would also tell you, why do schools ask you this question? The reason they ask you this question, imagine if I'm a 40 years old prosthodontist, endodontist, oral surgeon coming from India, Pakistan, and coming to US and now becoming a student, where I'm going to be taught how to do SRP by faculty hygienists who are younger than me. And this is a problem that dental schools in the US had to deal with, because they were recruiting people who have so much clinical experience, who were professors and faculty back home. And now when they are being taught by a younger faculty, really young faculty, and getting criticism, they might not like it, and then the school will have trouble. So what they are trying to test is trying to know your personality type, whether you can manage criticism or feedback. Sometimes the schools give scenario. Imagine you liked oral pathology a lot and you thought you were going to get an A because oral pathology was your really favorite subject back in BDS. But during your DDS, you were taking that subject and you thought you will get an A, but at the end of the semester, you ended up getting a D or an F. What will you do? And they want to see how would you answer this. So my answer to them is, if I get a grade which I don't like and I wasn't expecting, my first thing would be to figure out where did I went wrong, what did I did not do right. Second thing I'll do is I will request an email to my faculty if they can provide me some kind of time or an online appointment where they can help me figure out what did I not do right. And I will try to work on my negative aspect and improve myself to make it better next time. So Dr. Pragna, am I making sense when I'm saying this?
Yes, yes, Doc.
So here's the thing, they will give you a time where they will say you failed, you did not get accepted to school. What will you do? You made a mistake, you got criticism. The main thing they are trying to see is, does your personality have the grit to manage a punch or something when things don't work out? Or do you act like a man child, I'm just saying, or a woman child who gets insecure when they are told they are not right? So I'm taking words from one of my faculty in the school. They used to tell us, be thick skin. In order to survive in the dental schools, you have to be thick skin. You're gonna get criticism. I knew people in dental school who got screamed out in the middle of the clinic even though they did not do anything wrong. And they were screamed not because it was the other person's mistake, it was just the environment, right? Sometimes things are not very good in the clinic you work. So people are just already tense and they will take out their anger on somebody. What the school is trying to see is, does your personality has that grit or that, like that courage to manage difficult time? And that's what you want to tell them in that story. Do not, here's a suggestion to everybody. If they ask you about a weakness, a difficulty, do not give them a victim story. Don't, even though you were the victim in that situation, but tell them what did you learned out of it and how it made you a stronger person. Okay,
Yes,
any
thank you.
sure thing. Any question, guys? Anybody else want to ask a question?
I have another question.
Yep. Yep.
So there was an other question in the interview. Um, they asked like, what's one situation where you stood up and dealt with a situation? So I explained about a situation back in my dental school regarding a lunch break, and then I've told them like how I spoke with my dean and dealt with the situation and make them change the rule. And immediately the interviewer asked me like, so when you talked to the dean, were you a class representative or like a leader of any group? Um, then then I said no because I wasn't. And the reason I mentioned was um, as I had like a good rapport with my dean and other faculty, that's the reason why I could like go to them and talk to them.
So, doctor, how many interviews have you given until now?
Just one.
Here's a I'm in not in a platform. I'm in a public platform right now. There's a big group. I don't want to go into deeper discussion with you, but there's a lot of red flags that you're mentioning. There's some things
Okay.
you need to think about, because first of all, I tell people the things that we have in back home, Americans won't understand in the same way because it's a different culture, different system. The reason he asks you, are you a class representative or a president? Because in US, if you have an issue, you talk to your class president, the class president talk to the program director, and the program director talks to the dean. Unless none of them are listening to you, then you send an email. That has to be a very important reason, like a harassment or some racism or something very wrong. Then you directly email to the professor or something, HR department, something like that. All right. But there are
Correct.
systems. And when you try to tell them back home, I would just walk into the dean office and say whatever I want to, and he would listen to me. They might think, okay, this person is won't be a good fit for us. So in your case, like with both the answers that you mentioned, there's some bridges you need to build. There's some foundational understanding. You have to think like an American to answer an American. I'm not saying American cause of their ethnicity, American cause of their mentality. You have to answer it like you're an American, you understand it. Otherwise, you're
Oh,
going to create confusion that's not going to work out good for you. Am I making sense, Doc?
yes.
Okay. And you want to use stories that shows you as a positive person. Again, both the stories that you mentioned, I encourage you, be very careful with the stories. And I would, if you're lined up for an interview, think about sitting down with some friends, somebody who has given interview or somebody knows how to deal with interviews. Write your answers carefully, and you want to leave your answers as a positive aspect. If you go back to this recording, watch it. I'm on purposely ending my answers on positive notes. Even my intonation goes up. It's again, sadly, interviews are uh, it's an act, is a theater. They can't know the real you, what what kind of a human being you are, how gentle you are, how hardworking you are in 30 minutes. They just have a very fast, they're spending their Saturday with you, and they have like 10 other people they have to interview. So they are on a train. So you have to give them answers in the way that they want so you can get what you want. Am I making
Correct.
sense or confusing everybody? Because I'm going into mm, like a little bit deeper discussion up here.
No, all your explanations are really beautiful.
Okay. All right. Doctor, okay, doctors, you are raising hand. There's somebody else.
Hi, doctor.
Yes.
So I have a question that what if they ask if they would like to overlook our something in our application, like if they want something that they don't want to look in our application, what can we
What
answer
what
for
what do you
that?
mean? Like, can you explain your
Uh,
question, please?
what is one detail that you would like us to overlook in your
Okay. To
application?
be honest, I've never heard this question in like from any candidate, but if they ask me, I'll say I
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to overlook anything. It is what it is. I have certain weakness. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing I'm saying on recording. Every single applicant that I've worked with, including myself, we
Mm-hmm.
all have weaknesses. We all have
Yeah.
weaknesses. There's some area somebody doesn't have research, volunteer work, something like blah 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 blah. Everybody has some weaknesses. And if and this is me now, this is Adriel speaking. If they ask me, I would say I'll leave it as it is because I have certain weakness. that's what makes me who I am, and I'm willing to work on them and correct them. That's how I would put it up.
Okay. And what if they ask to tell something which is not on our resume, because we already put
Tell them
everything
you're
on.
a piano player. Tell them something fun. Go out of the box. Tell them you're a classical singer. Something fun about your life.
Okay.
These kind of questions, I tell people that humor is a form of intelligence. If you can lighten the environment, if they ask you some questions which are out of the box, use them to lighten up the mood. Crack a joke on the weather if you can. Like something, if they ask me, like tell them I would be a barista, or I like to be a barista, I like to make really good coffee, or I like to do classical dancing, or I was part of a Guinness World Book record, or something like that. So use that, okay?
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, Dr. Shweta.
Hello, Doc. I have a question about tell me about yourself. If interviewer doesn't give you any clue, how long it should be according to you? Because
Nobody will give you a clue. It should be a minute or two. But here's the other thing. Look at the other
hmm
person, and this is hard
hmm
to explain. This is part of emotional
yes,
intelligence. You need to, when I'm speaking, I figure out that I'm boring the hell out of you guys. I can no, and that's
no,
where that no,
you are
no, no.
not.
Wait. Let me explain.
Mhm,
When I was
mhm.
18, I started teaching sciences in a kind of like a tuition center. So I've been doing this for very long. So you kind of like have to see your audience and say, okay, I've been speaking too much. Now it's a time I should maybe just say like, did I made everybody fall asleep? Like this is something you should be like you should analyze yourself like,
Aware
okay,
about your.
I
Mm.
spoke too much, I'm making like maybe this is the time I need to let them ask. Okay, so a minute or two, but keep a eye on how they are responding to a little bit, so it gives you a feedback. And this is something you learn with practice. Just do Here's a way I would do: ask a friend or a family member to do a Zoom call with you and practice with them for the next 3 4 days and see what if they can give you some feedback. See how you're doing. Do a recording and listen to yourself, which is very annoying. Listening to yourself and your voice is very annoying, but just see, do you like yourself when you're giving answers? Okay.
It's just I asked. Sorry, Doc. In continuation with that, on Zoom, getting that idea, that energy, like you are connecting or you're not connecting, should you go on or not? Because I have like 4 decades to explain. So,
No,
so
you
on
pick out.
Zoom call. Mhm.
There's It's not about Zoom. Just it could be, if you're
Okay,
gonna bore somebody, you can bore them to death in person or on Zoom. It's gonna be the same thing. The
okay.
point is your body language gets a little bit different on Zoom, but the point is you need to sit down and write what's more. If you have 4 decades of experience, you need to figure out which are the top most things that you would talk about. You have to start with your region, and you have to talk about your experience in US. Those two things are very important. But in between, now you have to figure out which one are the important ones which I'm going to talk about. And
Okay.
that's what I do when I work with candidates, is that I try to help them, okay, these things are most important. Some things will just, this is the outline which I feel are the most important thing in your life. Now how
Mhm.
much detail you want to put in, it's up to you. The other thing is your next questions will follow through whatever tell me about yourself you will give them.
That's another can of worm. We have to be careful. What?
Y-
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of,
Okay, Doc.
again, I tell this is a kind of a dance. While you're dancing with somebody, you can step on their foot too and hurt them, or maybe you
Mhm.
can have a really good time dancing. So it's kind of like an artwork, and you have to find a balance. What you can do is practice more. That's one of the things that can help.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Yep. Anybody else has a question before I move forward?
Doctor, I have a small question. It's like many of
You
us.
can ask a big, you can ask a big one, dog. It's fine.
So, doctor, many of us are like fresh graduates, and if they ask us like why DDS and why not residency, why did you not apply for that?
They don't
Like
ask
there are
you. No,
sometimes.
here's the thing. These questions are asked, but this is usually asked from people who were already a specialist, like somebody who's already a pro. With your case, I'm just sorry, you're a young person. I'm going to bully you now. But to be honest, in your case, you can just mention, I just fresh graduated. I want to learn the fundamentals right now. I'm a newer dentist. For me, at this point of life, is just conquering the basic dentistry, general dentistry. Once I've conquered that, then I can think about what specialization I want to go in. If somebody was a prosthodontist or somebody who, like Dr. Amit was saying, like who has, this is a valid question for them a little bit. In your case, you
Yes,
can just
doctor.
say, I'm building up my career. I just entered into the world of professional dentistry. For me, even conquering DDS right now is a very important task. And once I've done that, from there I can see which path I want to take.
Yes, doctor. Thank you so much, doctor.
Sure. Any other question, guys, before I move to the next part now? Okay. All right. Next part is that what I was going to tell you is there's the other, so there will be personality related questions. The next part is mostly ethical scenarios, which you might have already seen on, which I've shared in the group about your, about in US, one of their biggest concern is that the way dentistry is done in other part of the world is very different. So they will ask you questions. And schools, one thing I'll tell you, if you get accepted to a school and you're doing very bad in your GPA, you're failing your exams, they will help you to pass. They will give you tutors, they will give you help, they will help you to pass. In US, getting into the school is more difficult, but they will help you pass. They will support you, provide you all the whatever your needs are, they can help you. But if you try to break code of conduct or ethical do misconduct, they can kick you out. I've seen a lot of people getting into stupid trouble, and most of these were men. They tried to break rules which they shouldn't had because it's not even worth it. And they can kick you out. This is something that they are not very flexible with when it comes to cheating, not following the rules. So when it comes to ethical scenarios, they are asking them for a reason. They want to make sure that you're somebody who will follow the instructions that are given to you. And this is one area I'll tell you, stick to the
मेरी
to the
फोटो में कह रहा
rules.
है वो वीडियो फोटो का एक तस्वीर शेयर कर ऐसी फोटो लानी चाहिए मेरी फोटो
And
वाली
yes, Dr. Anjali photo lani chahiye.
oh
Doc,
sorry
I'm joking. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, and it is a good photo, by the way, just to let you know, Doc. So
thank you doc
so what I was saying to
Oh
everybody
God,
is,
doc, you understand every language.
I'm Punjabi, so I can understand Punjabi. Okay, so what I was going to say is that the ethical scenarios to so try to stick to ethics as like if somebody's there are questions that can be asked if somebody's cheating on an exam, somebody taking drugs, somebody is doing ethical misconduct. What the school wants to hear is that you will say as a student that I will inform the school. Now, scenarios can be different. For example, they can say a friend was cheating during the exam, or they can say one of your friend informed you that they have all the past papers. So the scenarios can change, but whenever there's a scenario regarding exam or cheating, mention that in this kind of scenario, I will inform my friend or ask him to go and talk to the faculty and inform yourself. Otherwise, I will make sure that I inform the school authority regarding these misconduct. It's very important that this is what they want to hear. The next part is they can give you a situation where somebody is not following the laws or the rules. For example, not wearing the mask right, not putting the instrument correctly, or sterilization was not up to the mark. These are kind of like medium ground problems. You don't have to go and complain on them. You can just talk to them, instruct them, educate them, help them out. But if then they continue to not do their work, then you inform the school. And I made a video on this on the YouTube too, like some scenarios. For example, if somebody is not giving proper oral health instruction to the patient, and you hear them in the clinic, what will you do? This is not a problem over which you will complain to the dean. What you do is talk to that person on the side and say, hey, I heard you, I that you were talking about oral health instructions, but you didn't give the thorough instruction to the patient. Do you need help? Like, I can help you out in that communication part, and maybe you can do it better next time. If that person takes your help or just work on its own, is good. But if you feel like this person does it every time and doesn't care about his patient, maybe then you can inform the faculty. All right. This is also another type of scenario. Sometimes they will give you an ethical scenario or a situational or critical thinking question where you can't, for example, I'm giving you a very weird, or the chances of such kind of question is very rare, but somebody in UOP candidate was asked, she was doing really good interview, and then they ask, how will you, how many basketballs can you fit in the room that you're sitting in? Somebody wants to answer this? So if the interviewer asks you how many basketballs can you fit in the room that you're sitting in, how would you answer it? Anybody is whoever wants to give it a try can. Okay.
Sorry, doc, what did you ask? I missed it.
So if the
Bad connection.
interviewer asks you, doctor, that
Mhm.
Dr. Shweta, how many basketballs can you fit in the room that you're sitting in? How would you answer it?
I will I will try to explain how my thinking is going, like thinking out loud. Like this much of a square, I think 50 balls can fit, and then I will try to, multiply that imaginary box in that room. I know there is no fixed number for that, but I just have to
Okay.
explain my thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
So for the rest of the folks, here's the thing. There can be one or two questions which are tricky and you don't know the answer. And if you come to the point where they ask you a question which you don't know the answer to, it's fine. If you don't know as an answer, like my father was a professor and he used to say that teachers don't like two kind of people. One, people who know everything and don't want to learn, and the other people are who don't know anything and don't want to learn. You want to show that you're somewhere in between as a student. It's fine if I don't know the answer, I will try to find like I will use the right approach to find the answer. That's what they are looking for, and that's what Dr. Shweta was saying. So if I would have to answer this question, my answer would be, in order to figure out the number of basketball I can put in this room, I will calculate the volume of the room using the length, breadth, and the height, and from there I can find the volume of one basketball using the radius, and through that calculation we can find how many basketballs we can put in. But just to give you approximate number, maybe I can put 400 basketballs up here. All right. So the reason I use this question is they can ask you a question you might not know the answer to. Maybe they can ask you an endo related question, a surgery related question, an ethical scenario, something about state laws or Medicaid laws. You might not know the answer to that. And if you don't know, just don't get worried that you don't know. You're a student. It's fine. You will say that if I don't know this, I will reach out to the concerning authority, the people who know, and try to ask them for the guidance to figure out the right answer. Use this as a, if something tricky comes to your way, always say that then I will try to find the right guidance. I will try to reach out to the right people to find the answer. All right. That's the other thing they can ask you. One ethical scenario can come which could be regarding patient confidentiality. One thing I'll tell you, in US right now, US is facing a lot of trouble when it comes to dentistry and healthcare, when it comes to patient confidentiality. They have to spend a lot of money. These big hospitals throughout in US, their systems get hacked all the time, and if somebody's social security or their last name and date of birth is stolen, somebody can do a lot of harm to me financially. So in order to protect it, these hospitals have to buy softwares, have to buy antivirus and all of those malwares and material, right? So when you're in your interview, if you talk about the importance of patient confidentiality, that shows that you are aware of the issues in dentistry or the healthcare in US. So they can give you a situation where one of your colleague lost a USB which had the patient data, or one of the nurses or assistants uh, took a paper which had the patient name and detail and put it outside in the waiting area. What will you say? So in this kind of, whenever they give you a scenario which is regarding patient confidentiality, you have to express or show them that you know that this is against the law, HIPAA, and it is of high importance that you train your employees that they have to maintain patient confidentiality. All right. So the scenarios can be different. They can give you different scenarios. You were working in a hospital, two nurses in the elevator were discussing patient confidentiality. What will you do? All right. In this case, you will talk to them and inform like, hey, this is against the HIPAA and we shouldn't be talking about patient confidential stuff. But if you feel they continue to do this every day or you hear this, you should inform the HR. Now, if a like the same thing I mentioned, if your employee lost a USB which had a lot of patient data, now your first thing is you need to find that USB. If you can't find it, then you have to call and inform the concerning authority that the patient data has been lost and we need to do something. The third thing you can do is inform the patients that we had a breach of data, and if you feel like something is not right or fishy, you let us know and we will try to protect your confidentiality. The fourth thing is you need to train your staff. Okay, I made a YouTube video on these things. One other question they can ask you again about patient confidentiality is, one of your patient has HIV and the patient told you that they have not informed their spouse who is sitting outside. uh what will you do? Dr. Kaur, Dr. Herman Kaur, since your camera is on, I'm going to put you to the test that
Hello.
yes, if your patient tells you that they are HIV positive and they haven't told their spouse who's sitting outside, what will you do?
In this case, we can counsel the patient. We cannot go directly to, we cannot like directly tell the husband or something. The first point of contact should be the patient. We can ask her that it is important. We can like do a counseling for her.
So here's the thing. In this kind of scenario, the right answer is, first of all, this is patient's own personal information, and without their consent, you can't let anybody know this. Number one. Number two things is that you can ask the patient is that they should seek counseling or guidance through their physician and maybe inform their patient because this is a transmissible disease. Third thing is about HIV, people can be on antiviral therapy or whatever they call, and it could be controlled nowadays. So by the end of the day, you don't know their relationship, you don't know the medical condition. What the school wants to hear is that you will say that I won't inform the patient's privacy to anybody else because it's against the law. Now, I had somebody who said this, and the interviewer said, well, what if the wife is also your patient, the spouse is also your patient? In this case, you will say, I will still not inform them or release the medical information because it's against the law. Now, what the interviewer did to that student just to pressurize them or put them in trouble, they said, well, in that case, don't you feel you're a little bit heartless and you're letting the other person ruin their life? Don't you have any sympathy? The the faculty or the interviewer was just tricking them into giving up. And the answer in that situation would be, well, even though I care for my patients, but patient confidentiality is a very important factor in US. And in this given situation, I can guide my patient, I can counsel them, but I can never release their medical confidential information to anybody else. All right. So that's the kind of answer they want to hear. Okay, and again, I have more videos on my YouTube. There's a whole playlist. I will share it again, if I could, in the group, regarding these kind of scenarios. But do you guys have any other question right now? Okay, all right. I believe if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna, yes, Dr. Arti. Yeah,
Yes.
Dr. Varun, just message me later on WhatsApp. I'll send you the link. Yep.
Yes, doctor. So, related to this ethical scenario, I was asked a question saying like, on day one, you have an instructor who gives you a treatment plan for the given patient on that day. But on day two, the instructor one who came on day one is not there or has taken off. But you have an instructor two who comes in and sees the same patient on day two but gives a different treatment plan. What would you do? Would
So,
you follow instructor one or instructor
okay,
two?
I'll answer this scenario and what they are trying to ask you. So in dental schools, we don't have a license, right? We are students and we are working on live human patients. The reason we are able to work on human patient without a license in US because the covering faculty license is on stake. If I do a wrong treatment and God forbid that patient does a lawsuit, the faculty will be the one who gets in the lawsuit, right? So by the end of the day, whenever you're working in a clinical area in dental school, you have to follow the instructions of that covering faculty because it's their license which is on stake. Okay. So if the treatment plan by Professor One John was different and the treatment plan was changed by Professor James later on that given day, you have to follow Professor James' instruction because you are working under their license. In schools, as students, it's not, I hear patients say, I will discuss this. You can discuss whatever you want to, but it's not a democracy. It's a patriarchy, kind of like a monarchy system, because you're working on somebody's license and you have to do whatever that person tells you. If they say you have to put up a rubber dam before you do the filling, you have to put it up because it's their license. And if they are not satisfied with that, you can't work on the patient.
So, thank you for that answer, doctor. So my answer to that question was like what you just said, like on day two, if I'm going to treat the patient, I'm going to listen to the instructor who has given me that information. Now, the follow-up question for that was, how would you explain that to the patient? Because the patient was given a different treatment plan and today it's a
Well,
different treatment.
well, I let the patient know that in every dentist has their own philosophy or the way they look at dentistry, and there are different ways to fix a tooth or a problem. And at this given situation, my current faculty, Dr. James or whoever it is, has suggested that the better way to resolve this problem or fix this tooth is to do this. If you agree with this, you can sign the consent form and we can move forward. If not, then we do not have to do the treatment. Okay. Here's a question: how to answer a question where the interviewer asks how self-reflection is important to workplace. Well, this is a philosophical kind of a question. It depends on how you want to answer. You can just mention that for me personally, I like to self-analyze myself every week, every day, whenever I can, because I think every workplace is different, but as a person, I want to grow in life. I want to improve myself, and doing self-reflection is one of the key thing, is trying to figure out where you're wrong, where there's an area of improvement, and I like to work on it. Doctors, somebody was raising hand. I okay. If anybody else has a question, I have 10 more minutes. I can help you out with that. And
Doc, I have that continuing question with what we were discussing with different treatment plans. Will it be more confusing if I say I'll go to the director or supervisor like one step ahead in hierarchy and
No,
try
no,
to no, it will
don't
be
show that you're there
okay.
to create trouble. You just follow what the covering
Okay.
faculties. You're not trying to create a revolution and change the next PM.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
do not go into that rabbit hole. You
Thank you
can
so much
later
for discussing this because I had that answer in my head
you
because
can
I
always
love.
mention that I will later
Mhm.
on talk to my faculty, try to learn about their
Mhm.
perspective on dentistry, try to do a
Mhm.
PubMed research, try to
Mhm.
learn more about those treatment plan. But it's not like you have to say that I will fight back because I don't think they are right.
So in treatment plan, we will just follow the day wise. It doesn't matter a day, just a day
It's not
before
day
yesterday.
wise. The point is you will follow the instruction of the professor you're working underneath. You can
Okay.
discuss with them, but you have to follow what they are saying. The next question is patient is scared of periodontal probing.
Okay.
What will be
Thank you.
your suggestion? Well, in that given situation, if a patient is has an issue or scared of piezo or probing, what I will do is try to educate the patient first that what we are trying to do. I'll try to bring a typodont and show them that with the periodontal probe, we are trying to measure the length of your gum and we have to use it to diagnose your dental conditions or your gum condition. If the patient if I'm able to consult the patient a little bit, I will start on one quadrant and see if it's not hurting him too much. And from there, we can move forward. But otherwise, we'll have to gradually consult the patient, educate them, and then move forward with the treatment plan. All right. Dr. Arti, yes.
Yes, doctor. Sorry, I'm asking questions again and again. So this time it was something like you have learned a procedure in certain way for so many years from your country, but then what you are learning, what the instructor has given you on that day is completely different. How would you manage that? Although you said earlier, like you would be listening to the instructor on that day, but how would you self-reflect? Would you completely
Okay.
deny what you learned?
No. I'll answer this really fast. So, in this kind of situation, first of all, I need to understand that I'm in the school because I want to learn and I want to grow, and there's something that I don't know. That's why I'm in the school as a student. Number one thing. The second thing is if I'm being introduced to a new idea, I would try to ask the question, I would try to ask genuine questions from my faculty, try to do my research on PubMed, on Google Scholars, try to learn more from my seniors. And yes, I will be totally open to learning new techniques and learn new methods because this is an area of interest and I'm somebody who's a lifelong learner and want to continue learning in my life.
Okay. Okay. That's a very good.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you,
Doctors.
doctor.
Yep. Who else was raising hand? Yep, Doc.
Hi, doctor. My question is dentists are better described as businessmen rather than healthcare profession. How can we
Did
answer
you
this kind?
did you get this question? Where did you get this?
I just went through some basic interview questions, so I got
No,
this question.
they won't ask you this in dental school because they are a dentist who are sitting in front of you, and they are a way bigger businessman than us, and they have done, and this is not something they would poke into.
Okay.
But if they just for the sake of fun, if you want to ask me, I would say, well, I'm not the one who's dictating this. It's the US system by the end of the day that is dictating. I think dentists are not the one who are the businessmen, it's the insurance companies who are. So that's a
Yeah.
question for the government and the insurance system. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor.
Okay. The other people who have been quiet, any questions from the other side before we anybody else want to ask Dr. Erica, Dr. Varun? Anybody wants to add something before we finish the session?
No, sir. Thank you.
Sure thing, Doc. So hopefully
Thank you, doctor.
Okay,
And
Dr. Zan, I know you've been asking me about letter of recommendations a couple of times. I'll try to. I've just been overwhelmed with interview seasons these days because Colorado has started. I'll try to get back on there, but do understand I've been focused so much on interviews right now. That's where my head was. But as soon as I get time, I'll try to get back to your LOR question soon enough. Uh, but I'll try to do it at my earliest. I'm just been overwhelmed with interviews because these days a lot of interviews are going on. The other thing is I would be doing a session for Colorado, hopefully next week, and that would be a paid one, group session. If somebody wants to sign up, that it will have the radiographic interpretation. It will be a little bit more detail about Colorado rather than having a generic conversation like this. So if you guys will be interested, you can let me know, but I will post it on my social media sometime soon. And I'll get back with the LOR question. And Dr. Superior, you're asking something?
Yeah, I have a personal question for you, doctor. I went through your profile and understood that you got more than 4 acceptances from different schools. I would like to know, why did you choose Colorado? What is your interest in choosing Colorado?
I only had 4 acceptances, and now you're tricking me into giving you Colorado answer, which I'm not gonna do because that's the answer for a different time. I'm not gonna. Here's the thing. I don't mind it telling, but here's the thing. I don't. If I start giving it to 200 people, this recording, everybody's gonna say the same thing, and it's not gonna be good for any one of them. And if you ask me, I'm gonna be very honest up here. The reason I picked Colorado at that given time because Colorado program was starting earlier for me. I would have waited 5 months later if I would have gone to UCLA or NYU was 28 and months. So for me, it was the earliest way to get in and get out with the license. So time is of the highest commodity. So I ended up going towards Colorado.
Okay,
If
thank
you
you,
want to
doctor.
say that in the interview, all the best. Okay. Yes, Dr. Ariga.
Hi, doctor. I just want to say thank you for this. It was a really interesting conversation. I really learned a lot of things. And the only question that I have is, should we keep this WhatsApp group for the Colorado?
I'll share with you. I will share when I make the Colorado group will be separate.
Okay.
But I'll share the information later on. I still need to work on it and decide the time.
So we have to left this group then?
No, stay in this group. You don't have to leave it. I'll let
And
you
thank
know.
you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Sure, I'll share the recording of this in the group. All right. Okay. All right, guys. I wish you all the best. I hopefully will talk to you guys more later in future, and will try my best to answer whatever I can. Sometimes I'm not able to answer everything because, to be honest, it gets overwhelming because there's like 30 people who send message at the same time, and it does become difficult, but I'll try my best to get back with the answers whichever I can. Okay. All right. All the best, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sure thing. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Doc.
Bye.